Hey, this is Tim Ashe, President of the Vermont Senate, and I'm taking a break today on Easter Sunday from my normal live updates, but wanted to just reflect a little bit on what the last month has been like in terms of being an elected official and the people that I serve with and how people have banded together to help address this crisis we're going through. I'm unscripted, which is always a little dangerous, but you'll have to bear with me. I think one of the first things I want to mention is that most public officials, especially candidates during election season, will say things like the most important job of government is keeping people safe. And usually it sounds like a tired cliche, but there has been nothing like the last month to show just how true that statement is. I think we're really fortunate that in general, other than making sure that our police and criminal justice system are keeping people safe, we don't really think about broad public health threats that endanger many, many lives all at once. And the COVID-19 crisis has really put us to that test. So I have really been impressed with how quickly the people who are elected in Montpelier have recognized that that tired-seeming cliche that people often resort to, that we had to make that true and meaningful in the work that we did and how we proceeded. And that really begins with the governor himself. I've known Phil Scott since 2009 when I first arrived in the Vermont Senate, and he was the chair of one of the two committees I served on. And I've always known him to be a very, very wonderful person. We have some philosophical differences, there's no question about it. But I've never doubted for a second his sincere hope to make sure we're in a state where people can succeed and be safe. And from the moment this crisis broke out, I have been really impressed with his decision-making, which has been very thoughtful, and his communication. I think one of the most important things that he's done has been expressing his honest assessment of where things stand, even if he doesn't have all the answers. And it's very tempting for people who are elected office. I should know, I've been in elected office. You want to feel like you're in control of everything. And with a pandemic crisis, you can keep making the best decisions on behalf of the people of the state, but of course there are unknowns. And so the governor's honesty, I think, has really been reassuring. It's not been surprising to me, but I respect it and value it nonetheless. I also want to thank the governor for being in such good communication with me, with the Speaker of the House. It has really helped all of us be unified in our response to this crisis under really the most stressful times in the last decade in state government that I've experienced. And so while we'll all look back, months from now or a year from now and say, maybe the government could have done this thing a little different or made a decision a little bit sooner or maybe waited a little bit longer, I really think those are ultimately quibbles, and that in general, we should be thankful that the governor has been being really thoughtful in putting human lives above all else. The lieutenant governor has really been great to work with. The lieutenant governor presides over the Vermont Senate, and from the moment we decided to shut the State House down, which was just a month and a day or two ago, Lieutenant Governor Zuckerman has been a good partner in governing and has been on call for whenever I know the governor or the Senate has needed him. We have conducted the first ever remote session of the Vermont Senate in Vermont's whole history, which required the lieutenant governor to flex some technological skill, and I'm very grateful at how easy he's made that for all of us. Speaker of the House, Mitzi Johnson, we've served as the respective leaders of the Senate and House. This is the fourth year together, and we've had a lot of legislative successes and have worked very well together in general. But I've watched her address this crisis in a way that really brings out all of her best attributes. It has been really remarkable as she has to communicate and corral 150 people, and working with her to pass some emergency legislation in the immediate days when we went into the stay-at-home order couldn't have happened without strong leadership, and Mitzi deserves a lot of credit, as do the respective members of her team. The members of the Senate that I get to work with, we are 30 people from all over the state. We each bring very different skills and interests to the table. The moment we knew that we were in a crisis situation, all 30 people coalesced around one theme, which was protecting people. And it is jarring as a legislator. I mean, back a month and a few days ago, we were talking and debating transportation policy and human service issues, and you name it. We have a huge menu of issues that we're considering every year, and within a 2-day span, everyone dropped it and said, we'll come back to that when the time's right, but for now, it's all about keeping people safe and helping people weather this economic storm. And so the members of the Senate throughout the state have just been unbelievably committed to focusing 100% of their energy on helping people through this crisis. We've also immediately started putting some of our thinking to how we get out of this mess, and everything from understanding how to best use federal dollars to position us for a healthy recovery, making sure that we continue to be able to fund our schools after the shock to our education fund, which we're going through right now, making sure that our human services and healthcare infrastructure not only can weather this storm, but then get on the other side of it in good shape. I'm just really proud of the members of the Senate who have already started thinking about the next steps of recovery, because we're going to have a lot of work ahead of us to get out of this healthcare and economic trauma that we're going through right now. And then finally, a lot of it's not so easy anymore to recruit people to serve in the highest positions in state government, not the elected positions, but the ones that are appointed, because there's no guarantee of a job after 2 years, and government for the last 30 or 40 years has been disparaged and abused, sometimes rightly, but often deliberately by people who are anti-government. And so it's a stressful position. Things don't always go right, and when they go wrong, you're publicly out there hanging for criticism. And so I just want to acknowledge that Governor Scott has a team of commissioners and secretaries and people who work directly below them in the policy ranks. And while I have not agreed with everything they've done over recent years, nor will I agree with them when we get on the other side of this, there has not been a single moment throughout all of this crisis where I've felt for a second that they weren't entirely on the same page about protecting public health and then starting to think about how we build our way back out of this. And so I really want to thank all of them for the tremendous effort they've been making under circumstances which people really don't sign up for. I mean, I guess they do, but they don't really suspect it will go down quite like what's been happening for the last month. So I have just been reflecting over the last few days as we enter effectively a month of this new world order, and we have all the uncertainty in front of us. But I think that it is worth noting that there are multiple sectors here. We have government, nonprofit, private business, then we all have our personal lives. And for all the disparagement that government gets, I think that people of Vermont right now should be very appreciative that the politics have been put aside and that there's really been a unity of purpose amongst the people who are elected to serve you. None of us are looking for thanks. That's not why we get into this. It's to help people and to make the state the best place it can be. But I'm just reflecting. I've been through policy fights and political fights. This has been, I think, exactly the kind of coming together that people would expect in a time of crisis. There'll be a moment where we return to some of our philosophical battles, but today on Easter Sunday and at the end of a week where many denominations have celebrations that are very important, I just thought it was a good moment to reflect on how fortunate I've felt to be able to work alongside so many really conscientious and publicly spirited people. So I hope whether you celebrate Easter or not, I hope you're staying safe with your family, and I look forward to returning to my normal live daily update tomorrow at 5:30 each day. each day I will continue to provide those updates until I feel like I'm not offering useful information. So I hope you'll continue to join me and keep sending me questions and comments so that I can bring those views to the governor and his team to make us more successful on our way out of this. So thanks, and see you tomorrow on Monday.